Welcome to tonight's paranormal podcast. Under the full moon in Santa Cruz, California, we are here with the Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters to answer the question, is it a ghost or a ghost story?
Hi, welcome everybody to our first podcast. And what we have today is the Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters. Right now, we'd like to introduce Timothy Lowe, a longtime member of the organization. And welcome, Timothy.
Well, thank you very much for having me tonight.
So, ghost hunting, what does that mean? And how is that different from, say, detective work? And I understand, what do you do for a living during the day?
Okay, first off, I'm retired. I was in the military for 20 years, worked for the feds for 10 years after that. Presently volunteer with the Sheriff's Department. I go out on patrol, and not too many investigative skills are used out there anymore, but my experience through the years of my job and training has made investigating somewhat a little bit easier, but it's always good to stay within that particular mode. And that's kind of what got me into ghost hunting, was going out, finding out new information about things that have been not looked at for a while, cold cases, haunted areas, and going out and really doing investigations, doing the work of going and finding the information, going out, setting up cameras, video recording devices, audio recording devices, and really going out there and do a true investigation and see if we can find anything. That's kind of fascinating.
Wow, that's really amazing. Can you tell me why in particularly ghosts, not UFOs or Bigfoot or even just the unusual in everyday life, like two heads? It's all so paranormal.
Tell me to go on a Bigfoot hunt. Let's go.
All right.
Let's go see a UFO.
Have you yourself ever experienced a paranormal situation?
Many a times. I've had situations with humans, and I've had situations with pets also.
Pets?
Mm-hmm.
Could you go on about that?
I had a dog that died 8 years ago. And every night the dog would come over, this is before he died obviously, would come over and nudge my hand every night before it would go and lie down. And after the dog died, for 2 weeks thereafter, every night something would come over, nudge my hand, and then that was it.
So he was coming back and visiting you.
Saying, I'm all right. It's good.
When you do, have you ever seen an entity?
No, not yet. Still hoping. I think every investigator, hunter, whatever you want to call, is always looking out for that first touch, that first visual. That's pretty exciting stuff. I'm waiting for that to happen.
What has been your most exciting investigation so far?
I'd have to say Tuttle Mansion.
Why is that?
Because it's reoccurring. It's something that we can go back time after time and have not always the same thing happen, but maybe a little more, maybe a little less, something different, but there's always some activity there, and that's fascinating, that one place.
So you can actually measure and consistently record activity.
Yes.
When you say activity, could you talk a little bit more about what that means?
A lot of it is audio. We'll go ahead and pick up different noises. And through listening to EVP sessions, it's an electronic voice phenomenon, we might pick up something that a normal person can't hear. We have an awesome audio dude, and he takes care of us if we happen to hear something when we're going through our information. And then you also have photography. We always go ahead and take pictures while we're doing these investigations, and the quota is always you do two. You always shoot a shot, you shoot a second, just to make sure that what you see in a photo is backed up either with a photo prior or after. So the last thing is we'll use different equipment, flashlights. We can set those up And if you adjust them to where they're just off, sometimes we get responses when we ask questions and ask for a specific flashlight to light up. It'll light up. We can get them to turn off. They'll turn them off. And plus other electronic gadgets and things that you can get on cell phones and iPads these days.
Wow, so you guys are really loaded down. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Timothy.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
We'll be talking again soon, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Thank you.
All right.
Welcome back. And we have with us today Beth Gemini. She's the number 2 in the paranormal team, Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters. Beth, can you tell us a little bit about what you do on the team?
Hi. Well, I am a bit of an investigator. I like to capture baseline readings of our environment when we go out. I like to run our meters. I have an EMF meter that's kind of old, but it is very trusty. And I like to just see where we are before we start actually an investigation to see what might change in an environment.
When you say you take a baseline reading, could you give us a little more explanation about what that really means and what kind of meter are you using when you're out there? And I know sometimes, do you ever do investigations outside?
Absolutely, we do. In whatever environment you're in, it all presents its own unique challenges. But what's important is to see what is the change in the environment that might be introduced because you've encountered something paranormal. So the first thing we really need to do is a baseline. We'll take an EMF meter just to see is the EMF high or low, but what is, with nothing really going on, what does it look like? Then as we go through our investigation, then we can check to see what are changes in that environment, and that's the evidence that we try to collect.
And have you ever been in an environment where the changes were drastic, or is it mostly calm, cool? What kinds of changes do you actually find out there?
Historically, it's not too common to run into a true paranormal change in the environment. When you do run into one, however, it can be pretty radical. So what you're looking at is typically an EMF meter. This is an electromagnetic field meter that's just looking at at a certain status of where the EMF is. If you're looking at like an outdoor space and it's set at 0 and you scan the area that you're investigating and it all stays at 0, then as the night goes on or as your investigation goes on, as you may be trying to provoke or inspire a response, you'll see a change in that. Sometimes those can be pretty radical and they will spike erratically. I should note at this point that something paranormal is going to spike, erratically. It is the constant change, something that just goes very gradual and slow and stays at a particular level. That is usually a man-made indication of something changing there.
Oh, so you have encountered man-made variations in the environment out there, and so you know that what you're looking for is man-made versus the unusual. So when you say the word provoke, what does that mean? I mean, how do you provoke an entity? Do you yell, "Hey, come here, dude, come after me"? Or what do you really do when you're provoking an entity? Well, I can't even imagine that, coming at you, and chasing you out. Do you like go to cemeteries and places like that, or indoors?
Whatever place that you're at, wherever you're investigating, you'll do a little research first, actually quite a bit of research typically first. So there's a particular location called the Love Creek area that we've gone to first. There was a major slide that happened in 1982, I believe it was, around January 2nd or 3rd, in the middle of the night, that came in and just crashed in and just, changed a lot of people's lives and took some lives erratically. So that is the kind of thing that is, very erratic, a very sudden and traumatic change. And that kind of thing will have some impact on the area. So yeah, we've walked in and found the place to be very quiet. And then as we've talked to the people in the area, sort of recounting, okay, we remember, or we're here to recall that there was actually this occurrence that happened, and you bring up those things, you start talking about it, that's when the activity tends to spike.
My goodness. So case of Love Creek, when you go out there and you are provoking and recreating essentially what had happened there, is that when you take out your meters and you watch? What happens when you take out those meters? What do you look for in particular?
The meters come out way before.
Oh, okay.
The meters come out before you start doing all that, so you capture the baseline. This is what it looks like when nothing's going on. And then you conduct your investigation and look for those changes. Those changes are the evidence that we're after.
Well, Beth, thank you so much for coming and being with us. It all sounds really fascinating. And good luck. I hope you do a lot more provoking in the future.
Thank you.
Well, now we have with us today Rhiannon Mai Bond with her 4-foot long hair, red and blazing. But you are one of the newer members of the team, and I understand that you are sensitive.
I wouldn't go as far as calling myself a sensitive as much. It's only been recently that I've been discovering these abilities within myself. I've learned a lot through my friend Mitch and through you, Sanji, of how to use, quote unquote, the abilities, and how to interact with the entities that are trying to communicate.
When you say interact with the entities, that means that you've had some experience with interaction. Can you talk a lot about what it feels like to actually communicate with an entity and the kinds of communication that you do encounter, and just what are your own experiences?
My own
with this?
experiences were when I was, I think I was about 10 or 11 years old. I heard someone call my name, and I was alone in the house. There was no one else in the house at home when this happened, and I turned around and said, yeah, okay, what do you want? And that was it. There was no further interaction there, and it was like, it really intrigued me, because previous to that, I had an experience where I woke up in my bed in the pre-dawn hours, and I was watching the light starting to come through the window, and then I felt someone sit down on the corner of the bed, and I could not move my legs.
Oh my goodness. How did that make you feel?
I didn't know what to make of that. I was a little concerned, and I kept moving my leg trying to kick this thing off, and it was still there.
Oh my goodness. How old were you when this happened?
Oh gosh, I must have been about 10, maybe 9, 10 years old.
Were you frightened at all, or did you have a sense of what was happening? Were they trying to talk with you?
I don't know what it was about. I just was very, very aware of a presence, especially since I could feel the weight of them on the bed, pinning my legs under the blankets.
Oh my goodness. Could you see any kind of change, and you just had this heavy...
No, I just felt the weight on the bed, on the blankets, where I could not move my legs.
And there was no one in the room with you?
There was enough light in the room that I could see that no one was there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Has this happened to you often as you got older? Is it consistent?
As I got older, it was something that got pushed in the background. Even though I was still aware of it, it got pushed in the background. I was just more focused on school, life, relationships, family.
So how did this make you interested in pursuing the paranormal? What woke you up, so to speak, and made you become involved in ghost hunting? That's really an interesting profession, and you must have seen some really spectacular things out there in the field.
I had met Mary Ann through Ghost Hunters on the Facebook page, and she contacted me, and then we, started phone calling and communicating. And then we just started talking about our previous experiences with the paranormal as children, as adults, as, what's happened. And we shared our experiences. Those are personal. And, this is how we got started. And my first actual kind of initiation into the paranormal with the Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters was Mary Ann had a video of was it Evergreen Cemetery or was it Oakwood Cemetery. And there was this entity that we called John the Flirty Ghost. And then I got the name of John's first and last name, and started investigating him. And I gave Marianne the information, and she goes, "That's him. He had served in the military, and he was from Illinois, and before he came to Santa Cruz, and was later interned into Oakwood." But I found the information of him, and then Marianne was convinced. It's like, okay, you're in.
How many investigations have you done?
Oh, gosh. Not as many as I would have liked to participated in, simply because, I'm going to school right now and I'm really focused on finishing that. Probably collectively, maybe 5. I was with Ghost Hunters. My first actual investigation with Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters was up at the Mount Madonna Inn.
Oh, the closed one up on Highway 152. Right. I understand that murders happened there.
Yeah, there's some really sad things had happened up there. But one of the things that I had when I was going around, I had my K2. I went around to one of the other dining areas, what used to be a dining area, and was smelling cigarette smoke, and nobody was in there. Anybody
just
who was
smoke out
cigarette smoke.
The cigarette smoke in the
the dining area.
Oh my gosh!
And it was like, I told one of the other investigators, I can't remember who it was. I was the rookie at that time, and then they came back and they didn't smell anything. And then a different person came back and said, "Yeah, I smell cigarette smoke back there."
My gosh!
Yeah. And
have you ever experienced sort of a coldness or chills or any of those things they talk about
when we were
television?
At the Rispin Mansion. Rispin Mansion was really interesting case.
In Capitola?
Yes, on Wharf Drive.
Wow.
Wharf Road. We had an investigator who had provoked the entity, the bully entity that was there, and was pushed down the stairs. And while I was walking around with my K2 and my other monitor, there was a distinct cold sensation, especially when Marianne and I went down to the furthest part of the basement where the limestone was near the creek. There was a very, very cold sensation, especially off in one corner.
My goodness. Well, keep on telling these tales, Rhiannon. We'd really like you to come back and hear some more and keep investigating. And gosh, I hope that good luck with school. And gosh, don't you just want a degree in ghost hunting?
Yes. Thank you for having me.
It's a full moon tonight. Welcome back. And with us is the founder of Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters, Marianne Porter. Welcome, Marianne.
Well, thank you, Sanji, for having me.
It's been a banner year for you guys. How many investigations have you done now?
Oh, my goodness. We've done at least 30 investigations, both privately and commercial, within the last 4 years.
And this year, what was your most exciting investigation?
This year alone, we have done the Red Room, we have done the Cody House, we have done the Powder Works Mill investigation, we went back to the Tuttle, we also did Surf Bistro. Again, it tops it off with, I guess Tuttle keeps topping them off. Regardless,
and this is Tuttle Mansion.
The Tuttle Mansion,
Watsonville.
Yes. Yeah, we received a huge EVP this last time, electric voice phenomenon, that coincided with what we were discussing at the time, which was a murder, suicide, children involved, and got a great response that was totally unexpected.
Now, I'm noticing that there's a lot of history involved in each of these sites. Does it have any kind of bearing on the ghost hunting? Do you think it affects it or even contributes to the fact that it's so active?
Most definitely. History is pretty much everything, because all these different people went through different experiences through their lives, different traumas, different events, and a lot of them may be reliving it or re-experiencing it, which can be affecting or contributing to the paranormal activity that we're seeing.
I'm wondering if you've ever investigated the Brookdale Lodge.
The Brookdale Lodge. I did investigate the Brookdale Lodge in 2010, and we did. This was before Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters launched for a big team. It was more family oriented at the time, and we did get a lot of interesting activity there. We actually stayed in room 46, which was formerly known as room 2209, which was formerly room 46, and it's believed to be very haunted.
And when you say room 46, that means that the original Brookdale Lodge was much smaller, or how old is the Brookdale Lodge? Can you tell us that?
Oh, goodness. Judge Logan bought the property in 1890. They built a small lodge within those couple of years. Since then, it was in the early 1900s, it was bought once again by Camp, who continued with the lodge and made it a lot larger. So the Brookdale Lodge has been around, since the 1890s at least, 1892.
And they managed to preserve it enough for you to go and investigate certain specific areas.
Well,
like
currently
room 46.
it's a big motel, but it's closed down. It is closed down. When it was original in 1890, it was just a small little cabin that was dealing with logging and whatnot.
My goodness. What has been your most exciting adventure with all of these historic sites? I'm very curious. You said that you mentioned Red Room and Surf Bistros. Those sound like restaurants.
They are, actually. The Surf Bistro is located in Seabright in Santa Cruz. And it has a history of back in the area of trains and being a train depot for Santa Cruz and Watsonville.
My goodness, another historic site.
Another historic site. It's located right next to Brady's, which is, 100 years old or so.
My goodness. So why did you do this? What made you create an organization that goes out and investigates this particular type of phenomenon?
I was tired of watching it on TV and wondering if it was true. From childhood, I had personal experiences. I was in a home at the age of 6, and I used to see things at night. I used to see figures or people in my room.
In your room?
Yeah. It used to scare me so bad I would literally wet my bed. And this is embarrassing to say, but it's true because I was a child and
their bed.
there's something there, and I hid my head under the covers and couldn't look at them.
When you decided to do this, did it involve any kind of investigative training, or did you just go out there? How did you know what to do, what kind of instruments to use? I know they use a lot of equipment. Timothy Lowe earlier had described a slew of equipment. How did you know what to do?
I don't know. Maybe it was just part of it. I think comes naturally. Part of it is just watching it on television and learning from what other people have done. You have to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And once you start and continue, you learn and you grow, just like with anything else. This
is really unique. And it seems to me you have a very interesting connection with it all. How did that play into any of the part as to why you became a ghost hunter? How were you trying to find an answer or to a question that you were looking for? Or were you looking for someone you'd lost? Many ghost hunters always have a story like that. Did you lose someone and wanted to communicate with them? How did you decide that this is it? I want to do this. When I initially had my experiences as an adult, it was with a personal friend who was murdered. I was having dreams prior to his murder that didn't make any sense to me, of places and events and things that I just thought it was just a dream. Well, he ended up getting killed, shot 9 times. Oh my goodness.
And after that, I started having more personal experiences. I mean, my friend would used to call me like 10, 11 times a day on the telephone. And after he passed away, all of a sudden I'm getting phone calls off the hook and there's nobody on the other end.
Oh, my word.
He actually ended up being, later on, my father, who passed away, actually ended up being buried right next to this friend of mine who was murdered.
Good heavens.
And they didn't know one another. They never met in life. It's at that point in life, I kind of decided, there's more to what I'm experiencing, to just ignore it. I need to research it further and continue.
And how many, do you do this by yourself? When you said it was a family affair, do you bring the kids along? What is it that...
It started out as actually two best friends, and then it led into my family, my spouse, my two daughters. My son is interested in it now too.
Oh my goodness.
And it just kept going from there. And we decided, hey, let's make a team. And I had so many people on Facebook and otherwise say, hey, I'd like to be part of your team. And today we have 10 investigators who, from all walks of life, from all different experiences here in Santa Cruz County, that contribute to Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters and make this such a phenomenal paranormal team, that we just went from a simple idea to something that's pretty big right now.
Well, I'm really curious, how do you even interview for such a job? And, well, obviously with 10 employees, you must be a great boss. So.
We work as a team. We're all team players. And I think that's, that's the big part of it. We all have to enjoy one another and communicate together. We're all friends.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much, and be safe out there, and hopefully you'll catch an entity or two.
Well, thank you. Welcome back to Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters. Is it a ghost or a ghost story? Tonight we have special guest Ralph Jack from Bigfoot Discovery Museum, located in Felton, California, in Santa Cruz County. Welcome, Ralph. How are you?
Wow, Mary, I got to tell you what, following you up here for this podcast was unbelievable. The moon is a-screaming. I got to tell you what, I was expecting a squatch, a werewolf, or a vampire to come out on the road while we were coming over. I mean, the moon is so clear. I got to tell you what, you got to definitely know that the witches are dancing with their brooms tonight because the moon is so clear. It's phenomenal. I got to tell you what, the paranormal people out here have got to be jumping up and down over this moon tonight. It's so clear.
No doubt, no doubt. I watched that moon and followed it all the way over here to the studio, and my goodness, the thing is huge.
It's
beautiful
crazy.
Moon tonight. Now, Ralph, you're here to join us as our special guest, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about what you're doing. You're into cryptozoology, you're into Bigfoot huntings. What got you started on that?
Well, my farthest memory back, sweetie, goes all the way back to when I was 4 years old, seeing 3 UFOs coming over a mountaintop. And they got my interest in, ever since I was 4 years old. So as time went on, things happened, and I think I don't know if you call it clairvoyant or whatever, but things have happened in my life. My mom was a witch. My grandma goes way back into the Italian ways of paranormal, and I think I'm in on that. And it's crazy because now that my life has brought me to the Bigfoot Museum, and I've been living there now for 3 years. I've been a member for 8 years, And people have been coming to the museum with these crazy stories that they're unbelievable. But when you see the people actually telling these stories, and what's coming out of their mouths are, wow, do you call them liars or do you really listen to them? I have an open mind. And since, like I said, my oldest memory goes back to where I was 4 years old, seeing the UFOs, that I've been listening to these people. And wow, the things that have been coming to the museum are crazy. Since we've been open for 10 years, I've been a member for 8 years. And I am the lead investigator now. And wow.
Wow. It sounds like there's been a lot of things going on. I mean, obviously you've had an interest in paranormal, ufology, and which led you to becoming a Bigfoot hunter. That's an amazing interest. You've covered all three in your lifetime. And me as a paranormal investigator myself, we are interested in all three aspects.
Yeah, Marion, when you came to the museum that day, I was like, wow, because I saw a Bigfoot, when I was 7 years ago in my research. I was trying to kill two birds with one stone with my birthday and going out to the Tahoe to do research and to celebrate my birthday. Well, I was following these leads that were leading up to sightings in this certain area in Tahoe. So I was watching this for a few months, and I was able to go out to the area in Tahoe in the Desolation Wilderness, and through sightings and vocalizations, I was actually able to hear and see a Bigfoot. And
wow.
That changed my whole life.
Wow, that's amazing. And I understand now, after you've been with Bigfoot Museum for 8 years now, that Animal Planet, they're showing Finding Bigfoot on channel 61 in Watsonville, channel 51 or 52, I believe, in Santa Cruz County. With Bobo and the rest of the crew, and including the Bigfoot Discovery Museum. You guys are premiering tomorrow night at 10 p.m. an episode.
That is correct, Mary. And, throughout the 8 years that I've been with the museum and all that's gone on there, it was finally we were recognized by these guys, because Bobo is an actual member of our museum. So is Cliff. And we were wondering, hey, when are you guys going to come and see us?
Now, I understand.
Investigations here.
Not to interrupt you, Ralph, but I do understand that most of the Finding Bigfoot team got their start with you, with the Bigfoot Discovery Museum originally. Is this true?
Well, I wouldn't say their start, because Bobo, he's a member of the Discovery Project, the museum. And he's been a friend of the museum. He was a friend of Mike Rugg, who is the curator of the museum. And he's been a member. Cliff, he's been to many of our Discovery Days and has participated in, has done a lot of research before the Finding Bigfoot. He did, Bobo and Cliff, and Matt Moneymaker, of course, have done lots of research and has brought the door open for Bigfoot, basically, as far as the reality of Bigfoot being there.
Great. So we have been recognized here in Santa Cruz County as having a Sasquatch. That is awesome. Well, congratulations to the Bigfoot Discovery Museum, and we look forward to watching that episode, and thank you for being our guest. Ralph Jack here tonight from the Bigfoot Discovery Museum here in Santa Cruz County.
Thanks, Mary.
Welcome back. This is Marianne Porter with Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters. Is it a ghost or a ghost story? Tonight we have Sanji Hawk from our team. Hey, Sanji.
Hey, Marianne.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm in the hot seat now. So.
Yes, you are. Sanji, you've been a preservationist with the Evergreen Cemetery and working for the Museum of Arts and History for how long now?
Oh, just about a year and a half. Got a lot of field training, hands-on, literally. And they didn't have anyone on staff. So I came along and got started, literally put my hands in the dirt and raised the dead.
What got you interested in doing this?
Well, when I was young, I had a brother who was a mortician and a father who was a police officer.
Wow.
And my brother brought home a lot of different things. He brought home the usual stuff, girls and drugs and so forth.
All in that row. I hope not.
But he also drove home a hearse, or he'd bring home flowers from funerals of people who didn't have any family. And often he would take me to school and drop me off in a hearse or something called a body car. And then I would walk over to the mortuary where he used to work and hang out in the actual lobby. Sometimes it was occupied, sometimes it wasn't.
Wow. That's definitely, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty dead, you know.
Touche. So, Sanji, you've been working with Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters now for, approximately maybe a year out now?
Oh my gosh, has it really been that long? I mean, I don't feel like I'm working with you guys. It's more like fate kind of all threw us together. And we seem to have some sort of connector. I'd heard about this phenomenon, but I didn't expect it to just literally come in the form of ghost hunting and meeting all these wonderful people who have these extraordinary experiences.
And they have been extraordinary experiences. Can you share some of your experiences?
Paranormal experiences of my own?
Yes, please.
Or what brought me here? Generally, when I was 6 years old, I had an out-of-body experience. I was very ill, and I died. And one of the things that really hit me about that is I didn't know at the time that that was an NDE until I read about it much later. I was floating above my body. I saw my parents and the doctor looking at this kid on the table, and I wandered around and said, I am so over this life. I am out of here.
Right.
And I turn around in this swimming form. I can really feel like it was like water. And I turn around and I face this little girl. And she's a beautiful blonde little girl. And I go, hey, I'm trying to get out of here. And she goes, you can't leave. And I said, well, hey, come on, man. I can leave. No, you can't. And she gave me a little scowl. And I said, well, why not? She says, because you have to be my mom. And I said, I'm like 6 years old. I want to leave. Well, I promise I'll be your friend if you stay. And then, bam, I fell back down into my body.
Wow.
And I never thought about it again, actually, but I was able to see, hear, and understand things. And when anybody died,
right,
I could talk to them pretty much.
Well, we understand, in the field of paranormal that a lot of our team members, they are involved with us because they've had some sort of experience through their life. They've had some sort of belief. They've had something happen to them that's drawn them to investigations, such as what Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters do.
Well, that was what was really extraordinary about that was when I started watching the TV show, I thought, oh my God, other people are like this too. And then when we started having activity in our own house and I gave you a call, I think it was really amazing for me to hear, oh my God, you're not crazy. This is normal. And I was like, this is normal? Oh my gosh. It kind of opened my world because I had these experiences.
Right.
And now I have people who are saying, oh no, that's reasonable. You are a psychic. You can do this. You have sensitivities. And I'm like, I'm not a psychic. I do math and I believe in string theory and I like physics. And it took me a while to come to peace with it. And when I started working with you guys, I understood that it was quite important to use this extraordinary sensitivity for a good thing rather than burrowing into my blankets or putting on headphones and drowning out the world.
Exactly. Because we understand that a lot of people that are in this field, I myself and most of the investigators on our team, not only have had an experience, but we also have a sixth sense. We also have some kind of ability or sensitivity. And I think that maybe with a lot of the population, but most of them may not know it. They're just not in tune, or they're just not recognizing it.
What's really extraordinary for me in what you guys do and what I have learned to do with you guys is to reach out and actually bring closure to a lot of people who are having activity in their homes.
Exactly.
And making them aware of how to not only be at peace with what's happening in their home, but to understand why. And then maybe even get a little history, too.
Exactly, because Sanjay, you and I worked together at the Museum of Arts and History and researching history, and we understand that a lot of paranormal activity is revolved around history.
Absolutely. And we also, that from Santa Cruz has a lot of history and a lot of unfinished lives that have been terminated, they've been murdered, they've been died unexpectedly. It's been really an adventure, and thank you so much for bringing me on board.
Oh, thank you for coming on board, and Sanjay, thank you for coming tonight and speaking with us.
Very welcome.
This is Marianne Porter with Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters. Is it a ghost or a ghost story? Good evening, Marianne Porter with Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters. Is it a ghost or a ghost story? Tonight we have Jay Pierre Alvarez, part of the Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters team. Hey Jay, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Thanks for coming out.
Well, thanks for talking with us. Hey, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You are a new member of the Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters team. I'd love to hear some of your history, Jay.
Cool, right on. So I'm a musician. I play classical Spanish guitar, and I'm into audio recording, and it's one of my passions. It's a hobby I've been into for the last 12 years. And when I was a kid, I had a couple experiences with paranormal. And when you're a kid, you don't really realize exactly what's going on, but it's something that ponders just within yourself for many years. And it wasn't until I really started getting into audio recording my classical Spanish guitar, that I started to think, I wonder if I can record ghosts and, really get into that, because I'm really into microphones and audio equipment. And, there was a time when I started looking on the internet, and I started to find in the Santa Cruz County that there were people like yourself and, other maybe like another group, but I went on your website and I started to find out that you guys are into it, and it really just struck me as, wow, there's people out there that are in this in Santa Cruz, and I would love to meet you guys, and that's what really got me into this.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you did get a hold of us, because you've contributed a lot to the SCGH team. Is there something in particular that you experienced in your lifetime that adhered you to wanting to further investigate about ghosts or entities or the paranormal?
Yeah, there was. Maybe when I was about 4 years old, or around that time frame, my mom and her friend moved into this apartment, and they both, I guess, were divorced, or something happened with their relationships. And both of them had children, and my mom got a place with her friend in Fremont, California, and both of them had children. It was me and my sister, and her friend had a daughter. So us three children, we stayed in this one room upstairs, and my mom and her friend had separate rooms upstairs as well. And it was like a hotel motel thing. It was kind of temporary. Mm-hmm. And as a child, I watched my mom bring home this painting, and it was a painting of a lady in a rocking chair, and she had a white gown on with blonde hair. And her face, you couldn't really make out the face too much. She was looking down.
Right.
But she put this painting in the halfway point of a stairway going upstairs from downstairs. The halfway point. And this painting started to fall off the wall quite often during the middle of the night.
And that wasn't from a loose nail or anything of that nature?
No, in fact, it was talked about. And as a kid, I just look up and listen to the adults, but it had just appeared that it would just fall off. It was just something that jumped off the wall. And somewhere down the line, my mom and her friend had a party, and a get-together party, and it fell off during the time. So it was like a major conversation piece during that night. And I walked up the stairs, I heard it fall, and my mom was out there with her friends, and they just started talking about it. She's telling them, this thing keeps falling off the wall. Well, about a week later, in the middle of the night, as kids were sleeping, it's maybe, 12 to midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, we started hearing a lady downstairs crying really softly. And, I remember waking up. I heard it. I know my sister heard it. We kind of looked at each other. And we heard this lady crying downstairs, just kind of like whimpering, just like, really softly.
Right.
And so my mom and her friend came into our room because no one wants to go downstairs. We don't know what the heck's going down. It's kind of scary. So we're all up in the room and we're listening to this crying. And at the end of the night, it ended and we all went to bed. Well, it happened again a couple nights later. Then about a week later, it happened again, and the crying was so loud. It started off quietly, and then the crying went really abrupt.
Wow, so this is continuous. This is continuous. Every night you children are experiencing it. You're hearing it. You're being affected by it. The adults in the house are being affected by it.
Yeah, and I know I'm probably skipping a little faster, but this happened for about 3 weeks, where this crying was going on downstairs, and it was talked about among my mom's friends and her and everyone else that were the adults. But one night it just went really abrupt to the point my mom and her friend came into the room and grabbed us children, and pretty much didn't even put clothes on us. We're in our pajamas and just launched downstairs. Like all together, we just stopped at the stairway and just went for it and ran out the door.
Wow.
This is like 2 in the morning, something like that. And we went to the car. When we went to the car and running downstairs, we can see through the sliding glass windows, and there's a pool in between. It's a community pool, but our sliding glass windows to our living room is open, so you can see. And when we went to the car,
so you can see into the house.
We can literally see straight up into the house.
Oh my goodness!
And my mom and her friend, we didn't notice us kids, just kind of in the back seat. Then we heard our parent, our mom screaming like ah, and then we looked, and there was a lady in the living room on my mom's rocking chair, just sitting there rocking in a glowing gown, just staring at us, just like watching us. And, my mom's friend tried to put the keys in the car to start the car to leave, and she couldn't do it. She was freaking out. She finally got them in the car, and we drove off, and we never went back. I mean, my mom had to go back for stuff, but us kids, we stayed at my grandparents.
Wow.
And, that's what really got me into the paranormal.
Wow. That, I don't blame you. That is an amazing story. You have adults witnessing it. You have children witnessing it. And Jay, you're an adult now since this occurred, and this sticks with you.
Yeah,
clearly.
Yeah.
This is something that you have not forgotten.
Wow. No, it's there, and so now I'm a couple years older, and I really wanted to join a team, and I'm thankful you guys had me come into the team. I enjoy doing the audio for you guys, and so I'm looking forward to finding out more about the paranormal. And
Jay, we are honored to have you on the Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters team. I'd like to ask you though, since you've been with Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters and have done some investigations, I know you're new to our group. Can you tell me what is your favorite investigation, or what one that you have experienced something personal?
Okay, cool. Well, that's a good question, because there was 2, but one really stands out for me. And we did the red room, and I caught that a little orb, kind of in flight, and it shows in my camera that it was actually in flight. It wasn't standing there.
Yes.
It's actually in flight. But the night that really got me is the first night I went out with you guys to the Tuttle.
Tuttle Mansion,
And,
yes,
you guys,
indeed. That's the famous one.
And all of you were like in the mansion, and you told me to go in the carriage house by myself.
We did not tell him what had transpired in the carriage house, mind you.
So, it was like totally cool, and I would totally do it. But I set my laptop up and my microphones and all that stuff, and all of a sudden I'm all by myself. And I'm sitting there, and like an hour and a half went by, and in my headphones I can hear stuff outside. But then I kind of just zoned out for a while. I'm just daydreaming, just sitting there by myself. And there's like antique kitchen material around me, and stuffed dolls, and ponies, and like people riding them. And
it's the antique shop,
all
yes.
antique-ish. And I remember just looking in the room across the room that I was in, and I wasn't like in particular looking at anything, but in the corner of my eye, I saw this like dark fog, like shift over from like the open space in the middle of the room, and like slid right behind like one of the dolls or something. And I kind of like looked at it, because it caught my eye, and my heart kind of skipped. And instead of saying anything vocally, I kind of just took the headphones off, and my heart's skipping. And I kind of just, walk in the hallway, and I walk straight out. And I'm just like, oh my God, what the heck was that?
And
I stood out there.
What did you see?
I saw I saw this like a dark shadow of some sort. And it just like slowly shifted behind one of the dolls or something in this like a cabinet. And I was like, what? I didn't know what to do, but I just like walked out. I'm like, I'm out of here. And so that was kind of scary to me.
That for our listeners was Jay's first investigation. We at the Tuttle Mansion. We did not inform him that there was an entity in the carriage house of children. And apparently he had a first encounter. Well, thank you, Jay. We're so grateful you're on the team and all the help that you have provided for Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters. And I can't wait for us to all enjoy more experiences and paranormal investigations together. Thanks for coming on and joining us, J. Pierre Alvarez.
Thank you.
Wrapping it up here with the Santa Cruz Ghost Hunters team. This is Marianne Porter. Please be sure to visit us at santacruzghosthunters.com and stay tuned for more podcasts to determine, is it a ghost or a ghost story?